Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chill Film Discussion. We are back from a big hiatus, a big break, almost
Yeah,
3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe. Yeah, we've been traveling a bit, but it's now we're back and with another episode. So today's episode is about a movie called Walt Before Mickey. Um, yes, it's a 2015 American biographical drama film which features the early years of Walt Disney as he is creating Disney Studios or animation studios or Walt Disney Studios in general.
where does it?
So that's essentially the premise. It's directed by who's it directed by?
Coale? Le?
Koa Lei. Yep, and it well, it stars a number of actors. You can see on the Wikipedia page if your heart desires. But yeah, let's just get right into it. I'll start. Yes, this film was not great, and when I say not great, I thought it was pretty bad. Why was it bad? Well, um, let's say the pacing was off, mainly because there was a whole the ending just did not pay off because there was literally no detail, no journey to get to that ending. It's like essentially there is a failure, there's no rising action to that climax, and it just cuts to the climax
hmm
to the very end. That's essentially like just to put it in the general story terms. That's what happened. And instead of using screen time to get to that climax, that rising action to that climax, they repeated a motif of failure in the film of like, oh, business did not do well, it went bankrupt, things are
Yeah.
going well, employees are leaving, life's not great. That happened twice in the film, and so we didn't. In my mind, we didn't need to see that first time. Like it could have literally started with, because the first time it happened, it was with Laugh-O-Gram Studios, which is like the first iteration of like what eventually became Walt Disney Studios. They could have just gotten rid of that part. Started with Los Angeles, started with Disney Studios with his friends or whatever, and then like maybe mentioned like Laugh-O-Gram in the background as a bit of a you know premise, and then taking that screen time of Laugh-O-Grams, put it into this rising action of like, oh, there's this conflict with the distributors, and then he's like basically lost the rights to one of his characters in the films, and eventually like how it became this they could have put screen time in like building up how did Mickey Mouse get into theaters, because that part was entirely missing. Anyway, that's pacing was off. Let's just say that
Right.
acting was flat. Oh gosh, one of the actors, the best friend, the guy who played like literally just did not deliver um any sort of like what's the word uh
Emotion.
emotion. Yeah, it was just so
But he was also
monotone.
he wasn't very prominent either.
Yeah, but there were at least he was like his best friend. He was stuck
Right.
with him the entire time. He had enough screen time. He had enough prominence in the film to like note to be to at least have you know to show some dynamic acting, right?
Yeah.
And it just felt like there was just no acting. It was as if I was watching like a child kind of like play like on a theater play or a stage play. Like they were acting for the first time. Not to put anything against the actor himself, but it was probably some of the worst acting I've ever seen on a film. Like it was just felt so flat. And I'm sorry if you're seeing this and you're the actor, I apologize. But like you're better than me at acting, but like it was very flat. I was not convinced at all. And he
Mhm.
wasn't the only one. The actress for whoever played Lillian, Walt Disney's wife, she also was pretty flat as well. I mean, in general, the acting in this film was not great. It just none of like there was no. It wasn't very convincing. The best actor was Walt Disney, and even his role, like it was passable. It wasn't great. So the pacing was off. The acting was flat. Um, and my biggest takeaway from this film was that Mickey Mouse was almost called Mortimer Mouse. I already knew that from before, but seeing that on screen was like, oh yes, that was a fact, and that was a cool fact to note. Yes, so those are my conclusions. Yeah, it was not a great film.
Oh, great film.
So
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with your sentiments that yeah, this film had again, as I said, a lot left to be desired. This is a film about Disney, and I kind of wanted to know more about it starting. But yeah, I think it could have started a different point in time, and as you said, I think we could have focused a lot more on how Mickey Mouse was created and how that that trouble and challenges. Maybe there wasn't much there, but it probably that was the more interesting part. They kind of glossed over it, unfortunately. Um, I think for myself, you already touched upon it. Just there's a lot of showing about falling, failing, 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 and no rise and falling action of him showing his success and how he kind of because there was always when he's going to his next project, it's just him giving up and going to the next thing, or if he's going down, and you don't really see the effects of that. Maybe it's easier to move on, but here it's just he's like, oh yeah, he can go into the next project without having really any consequences, and his friends kind of fall for it. I think there could have been a lot more, conflict. The antagonist could have been, a lot more, better portrayed. Winkler, right, and showing them interfering more. I think that'd been, nice because you don't see them much interaction. I think, having them interact more would have given a more interesting story. Have interesting conflict, how they have to overcome that, or even conflict with family tension with him and his brother Roy, how to run the business, right?
Mm.
Because there it was touched upon, right? But again, it's kind of resolved easily, and his brother Roy is kind of, at least seems kind of like a pushover. Um, and how it's done. You had a problem with acting with I had a problem with acting, I think, with Roy a little bit, just how that was portrayed and how how he was trying to show fight against. I think more could have been more emotional. There's other characters I think could have been highlighted or maybe not even highlighted at all. Because a lot of highlight was brought upon Rudy, which I thought would have a bigger role, but he kind of just leaves. When I just like, okay, I thought he would have been have a bigger part, but he doesn't. Instead, it's Ub who kind of is the more supporting character, and I thought he probably should have more screen time or more conflict with Disney, and then have maybe their conflict is able to strengthen together and become bigger in terms of creating a bigger company, a production company, a studio, and it doesn't happen. And he kind of yeah, Ub is the one who kind of say, oh yeah, you're you're betraying your family and whatnot, but there's no point at all where I saw that Ub and Disney, at least in the beginning of the film, yes, but throughout the film, I thought the interaction could have been increased a lot more, have more visibility. And throughout the film, Disney doesn't seem as a good guy. Like some of his business practices, like not paying his employees or trying to do other things, stealing the camera. It's not it doesn't seem like this is a very charismatic guy or someone to look up to, right?
Mm.
And I don't know. Do I want to see him win? I don't know. This guy keeps kind of like being angry and whatnot, or trying to do shady practices. And I thought they could have probably portrayed, either in a better light or show him conflict or show him being conflicted, which, it doesn't show. We kind of, again, just kind of seeing this guy trying to, do what he can to, he got a guy who's very, very prideful, right? Seeing success, and you just don't want to really, root for him kind of at times either, which I think is a problem because this is your main character. This is obviously someone who's so charismatic, who's just root for and support, to build up, Disney, right? So yeah, and then there's some parts of the writing which I thought was kind of weird, but overall the writing I thought was okay. Nothing that left me, cringe like or have secondhand embarrassment. Um, but at the same time, just sometimes there's just like the writing was a bit awkward in terms of how the interaction between all the characters, the dialogue and whatnot. But the storyline itself is pretty simple, right? It's the rise of Disney, his life before again Walt before Mickey, right? Which sure that we can see that portion, but then again, it's like why is like maybe is this like supposed to be a part of a docu series, right? You have this one portion before, and
Yeah.
then you can see
Yeah.
other portions, right? Otherwise, you just see this beginning portion. There's not something that's very interesting. Like why was this movie made? I think more confident would have been would be better to interesting to see at the time trying to build up Mickey. But yeah, just maybe that's why they had the movie. I think they had even before they were trying to I think go for another name for this movie.
Oh, really?
I
Hmm.
believe I think it's supposed to be like Dreamers or something,
Oh,
or
yeah, yes, yeah. It was
Dreamer,
like a
right?
little trivia fact. Yep.
Right, and
Yeah.
instead they do Walt Before Mickey, which makes sense because this is all Walt Before Mickey. I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but yeah, this film just wasn't totally. I mean, there were parts yes engaging, and maybe that's because of who our subject character is, right? It's Disney.
Hmm.
We all want to see how he built it up, but
Yeah.
just when we get to open the peel the onion, right, or peel the we just don't see much of it, right? Or we see a character that maybe is not as pretty as we thought.
Yeah.
Even though he's supposed to be, maybe even though I think it tries to portray him as sympathetic light, like, oh yeah, he, we see his relationships and whatnot. Those are the high points, but they don't really add service. They don't really serve the plot. But it doesn't really seem as great a guy to aspire to. When maybe it kind of tries to portray him in that sympathetic light. We could have maybe seen some of his successes more, or some of his how the conflict. The challenges they went through, but it doesn't really show that. It just shows him failing, working hard. I'm not getting anywhere and just dropping it when we should have seen at least some points of success, or at least always a step up. It always seems like he's always
Yep.
failing. So
Yep.
a lot, I think, probably to do with the writing or how this was kind of portrayed and executed, more than the subject matter itself.
Cool. All right. Final ratings. I'm gonna give it a 3
A 3
out of 10. I think it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like as I didn't lose brain cells watching this film. I will say that.
Yeah.
So it's not 1 or 2, but there was a lot to be redeemed. Like, yes, there was a lot of parts that could have been a lot better. I think I would have liked to see more. Like I said, I basically described I basically griped on like the major aspects of the major aspects of a film in general regarding this film,
Right.
regarding this movie. So yeah, for me it's a 3. I would not recommend watching this film. I think there are better films out there to watch.
Yeah.
Like if you want to learn more about Walt Disney, I'm sure there's a documentary out there that you can watch.
Right.
That's probably way better than what this film
Better than this
portrays. Yep.
For sure.
Um,
I think I probably give it a 4, actually.
Okay.
There's a lot of that. Yeah, it's left to be desired, but I think
Yeah.
itself, like, the storyline is there, right? It's not like it was not. It's not like it wasn't a cohesive movie, right? It's a movie, right?
Oh yeah.
Below average, right? Like, the story's there. It's cohesive. Like, we get to see him grow up. We get to see his flashbacks, who he becomes. But
Yeah.
just the way that it was portrayed and executed, again, there's a lot left to be desired in terms of how, there could be more conflict, maybe better ways to show rising and falling action, and just better ways to show how he got to, making Mickey, or how he got to building his company, or just, maybe portraying him in a better, more sympathetic light, or showing his emotion well, or showing and one thing I actually want to point out also, there's a lot of narration in the film too. Which I don't know if serves the purpose of the movie, because when the narration is going, it's just showing Disney be like, oh yeah, I'm stressed, blah blah blah. I was like, probably don't need the narration. You probably could have just portrayed that in a better way,
Yeah,
or just
yeah.
showing it on screen instead of having the narration. So that's here's an example, I think, of a film where narration probably did not help us. I mean, they tried to add narration to service the film. Otherwise, I think the audience would be lost. They just want to put more feeling to it. That's why they have narration here. But I don't
Yeah.
think that it's served better here. Like in other movies that maybe we've watched before, where narration probably helped. Here, I don't think so. It's a style that probably probably could have been omitted, especially the way that movie was going.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it's like it's not a good film, but it's like, again, as you said, I didn't lose brain cells. Like, subject matter was interesting. Disney,
Yeah.
clearly the story, at least plot. This character decisions is there. Just the way it was portrayed, executed, characters wise, probably could have been a lot better. So that's why, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would not recommend. Again, I would not
Yeah.
recommend this film. If someone asked, like, should I watch this? I'd be like, nah, don't bother.
Don't bother. Yeah, don't bother. Wise words. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our stream. That's our remarks about this film. 3 and a 4. Well, take it as you will. I think the Rotten Tomatoes is like a 50. Yeah, it's pretty bad too. So I don't know. I might. There's better works of art or films out there. So all right, cool. I think that's it for us for today.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well,
Yep,
with that, we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Peace.